We discussed the general form of a quadratic function in the previous video. F of x equals to ax squared plus bx plus c when the leading coefficient a, what do I mean by leading coefficient? This square is the highest degree, right? The biggest exponent. So the entire term is called the leading term. Ax squared is called the leading term. The 2 is the leading degree, and then a is the leading coefficient. When the leading coefficient is positive, the parabola opens up. When the leading coefficient is negative, the parabola opens down. One thing that you don't see from the general form is that you don't see the vertex. So if I give you a general form, y equals to negative x squared minus 6x plus 16, the only thing you can tell immediately is that the leading coefficient is negative, so the parabola opens down. For this one, the x squared, this is positive, a is equals to 1 positive, the parabola opens up. You are not able to tell what the vertex is without doing the graph. So what if you have no graphing device and you want to determine the vertex? What do? Then you have to study the standard form of a parabola, which is f of x equals to a times x minus h squared plus k, and a is not equals to 0. And then in this standard form, the h comma k is the vertex of the parabola, and then just like the general form, positive a, parabola opens up, negative a, parabola opens down. So the blue quadratic equation, a is equals to 1, we can tell that the parabola opens up. But when you try to write this in standard form, you have to complete the square. So for completing the square, we can just do it right now. Do you see that the b is equals to 12? So for completing the square, if you do not remember what completing the square, the concept of completing the square, why do we do each of every step? You have to watch. I have a video regarding completing the square in my channel. You have to go look it up. Completing the square, you will be able to find that video. I fully discussed the reason of doing every step in that video. So in this video, I will just do completing the square. All right, so for completing the square, I'm going to do that in a different color. So I am going to do this in purple. So we know that b is equals to 12. For completing the square, you have to write this b divided by 2 square. This is the term that we are looking for. So which is 12 divided by 2 square, which is equals to 6 square. Keep the parenthesis and then keep the square and then don't square this. Just leave that as 6 square. I know that equals to 36. You don't need to say this. It is more convenient to leave that in 6x squared. And then the next line, you will have to write y equals to x squared and then plus 12x. Now, you are going to add and subtract this extra term. You are going to add 6 squared and then you subtract 6 squared. You are going to add and subtract this term. Plus 20. Why do we have to add and subtract? If you just add an extra term to the equation or the function, you just change my problem, right? You add an extra term in order to balance this out, you have to subtract the same thing. You have $5 in your pocket. I give you $1 and then I take $1 from your pocket, you still have $5. Right? If I give you $1, that changed the balance in your pocket. So if I give you $1 and then I take $1 back immediately, you still have $5. Now, what else do? You will have to group the first 3 terms. You have to group the first 3 terms. So the next step is you draw this big parenthesis and then you pull the square out. So what goes inside, which is the variable, and then the extra term. The extra term, look, the extra term is positive 6, right? So you just do a positive 6. When you square this, you will get the previous line back. And then how about the 2 terms outside of the parentheses? So that will be a negative 36 plus 20, which is equals to 16. Now, we just get the standard form. Where is the a? Do you see that there is an a in here, right? So where is the a? The a is equals to 1. So if you don't mind, let me just do this really quick. I'm going to pull this over, and then the a is just equals to 1. So now, since a is equals to 1 and this is greater than 0, the parabola opens up. like that. The parabola opens up, and then what is the vertex? The vertex is we have minus h plus k, but this is a plus 16. So the h comma k, so h comma k. So what is that equals to? That is equals to negative 6 comma negative 16. So since this parabola opens up, the vertex is a minimum, the lowest point of the parabola, and then the axis of symmetry. So axis of symmetry, which is x equals to negative 6. We will just take the x coordinate. And then now we know the parabola opens up, and then we have the vertex. In order to graph the parabola, we have to find the x-intercept as well. So we have to find the x-intercept by setting y equals to 0. So we have 0 equals to x squared plus 12x plus 20. So this one is an easy factor. 0 equals to x minus 10, and then x minus 2. X minus 10 and x should be x plus 10 and x plus 2, sorry. And then you have x equals to negative 10 and x equals to negative 2. So you have negative 10 comma 0 and then negative 2 comma 0. I have a graph for you. So this graph, I make this graph using decimals. What if you don't have any graphing device? I'm trying to use this graph to check the answer. So with, let's say this graph never exists. So what you have to do is you draw an x-axis and a y-axis. And then you have negative 6, negative 16, right? So 6, negative 16. Suppose 6, negative 16 is right over here. So this is a negative 6 comma negative 16. And then this is your vertex. Why do I put a parenthesis over there? This is your vertex. And then you have a negative 2 comma 0 and negative 10 comma 0. So suppose this is a negative 2 and then this is negative 10. This is a negative 10. And then this parabola facing up, so the parabola must look like that. So all you have to do is you line up with the x-intercept. So that is how you sketch the graph of this parabola, but you do have to find 3 ingredients. So the first ingredient is you have to work out the completing the square to reach to the standard form, which is right over here. So this is the standard form. You have to perform the completing the square to reach to the standard form, and then you identify opens up or down, the vertex, and then you find the x-intercept, graph it, put all 3 points down, and then line them up, then you get your parabola. All right, so the completing the square, this takes a lot of practice. The next problem is, what if the leading degree is equals to negative 1? Do you see that? The leading degree, this is a negative 1. So how do we completing the square? So let's do this problem. So first of all, when the leading degree is not 1, you have to make it a 1. So what do I mean by make it a 1? So the first step is y equals to, I am going to factor out a negative 1 for the first 2 terms. So that becomes x squared plus 6x. And then how about this? We save some space here. And then plus 16. You don't need to factor anything for the 16. Why do we save some space? We are trying to complete the square. So let's complete the square. Let me use, what color should I use? Let's use this. I'm going to do a b divided by 2 square, which is negative 6 divided by 2 square, which is equals to negative 3 square. Do not write 9. You will see why in a minute. So you add this extra term, and then you subtract this extra term immediately. One common mistake is people forgot subtracting the same term. And then you take the second term out. So we back to orange. So y is equals to negative 1, and then we have x squared plus 6x, and then plus negative 3 square, close the parenthesis, and then plus 16. When you take that one term out, do you see that this is a negative minus? So when you take it out, that becomes a plus. So that becomes a plus negative 3 square, which is plus 9, right? And then y is equals to negative 1, and then you draw a parenthesis, pull the square out. What goes inside? The variable and then the extra number. Do you see you have a -3 inside the parenthesis? Just put the -3 down. So when you square that, you will be able to go back to the previous slide, and then 16 plus 9, that is equals to 25. There we go. Here is the standard form of the parabola. So the standard form is right over here. So this is the standard form of the parabola. So looking at the standard form, you can identify the vertex immediately. So what is the vertex? The vertex is, so you have a -h, so which is 3, right? 3 and then comma 25. This is the vertex. And then since the leading coefficient is equals to -1, negative, the parabola opens down like that. So therefore, the vertex is a maximum. And then the axis of symmetry, which is take the x coordinate, x is equals to 3. And then what else do we need? We will need the x-intercept. So for x-intercept, you will set the entire function equals to 0. I'm going to write this out for you. So find x-intercept, and then you are going to let y equals to 0. So we have 0 equals to -x squared minus 6x plus 16. Use any factor technique you do. So you will get that 0 equals to -x plus 2 times x plus 8. And then x is equals to -8 and x is equals to +2. This graph just confirms my answer. Okay, so this graph confirms my answer. Let's say this graph never exists. How do you graph this? Oh, hold on. They have, hold on. I think that there is a little mistake in here. This is what happened. I think what you are doing is you already found the mistakes, and then you are going to say that, okay, you are making the mistake the entire time. I should be more careful. I apologize. Okay, here. B is equals to -6. You have B divided by 2. I should never give you this. I should not take B is equals to -6. This is confusing. I should not write this at the very beginning. I should erase this at the very beginning, because you determine B right here. You completing the square right here. So this is what B is. B is equals to +6. So this is a +6, and then this is a +3. This is a +3, then this is a +3, then this is a +3. That doesn't affect this one because you have the square. That is still a 25. So this is a +3. This is the +3. So since look at the standard form right here, you have x minus h. This is a +3. So therefore, this is a -3. This is a -3. Then this is a -3. And then everything else should be fine. So you have a -3, 25. So the graph just saved my life. And then we have x equals to -8 and x equals to +2. Wow, the graph just saved the whole game. Now, let's say the graph never exists, but I already make a mistake, which won't save my life. Okay, we have two x-intercept, and then we know the vertex. So I will just draw the x and y axis. I will plot the vertex first. So suppose this is a -3, 25, and then I have x equals to -8, and then x equals to 2. So you get this, and then you sketch the parabola like that. So this is the graph of the parabola. We have one more problem. So this time I'm going to be extremely careful. Okay, the green one. So let's inspect this. So this is a 2, this is a -1, this is a 1. Yes, at this point, A equals to 2, B equals to -1, and C equals to 1. This is fine, but what you have to do is you will have to, when you complete the square, you have to make sure the leading coefficient is equals to 1. Otherwise, you will make a terrible mistakes. I will just factor out a 2 first. So this is a x squared minus 1/2 x, and then plus 1. and then plus 1. Now, what is b? I will decide b right over here. So what I am going to do next is I am going to erase all of this, and then I decide b right over here, which is this number. So b is equals to negative 1/2, and then we do b divided by 2 square, which is negative 1/2 divided by 2 square. That is equals to negative 1/4, right? So negative 1/4 square. Do not square this out. And then you write this line again. So you have y equals to 2, and then x squared minus 1/2 x, and then I draw the extra term. And then I add this, and then subtract this immediately. And then plus 1. And then we have y equals to 2, and then we have x squared minus 1/2 x, and then plus the extra term, negative 1/4 square, and then we pull that term out. This is a plus 1. So when you pull that term out, this is a 2, this is a minus. So when you pull it out, you will get a minus 2, and then negative 1/2 square. And then y is equals to 2, and then you do this, parentheses, pull the square out, the variable, and then the number inside the parentheses, which is a minus 1/4. And then 1 plus that, so you have a 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1. 1 minus, this is a 16, this is the 2, right? And then that is equals to 7/8 plus 7/8. 14/6, right? Yep. 14/16 divide top and bottom by 2, you have a 7/8. So now this is the standard form. So I'm going to box this first. And then what is the standard form in case you don't remember? And in fact, it is good to just write this one more time. So which is y equals to a times x minus h squared plus k. So what is the vertex? The vertex h comma k. That is equals to 1/4 comma 7/8, and then this is a 0.25, this is 0.875. And then we know that the leading coefficient a is equals to 2, positive, so the parabola opens up like that, and then the vertex is a minimum. And then is there an x-intercept? So if you take a peek at the graph, you will say no, because the parabola is above the x-axis. That means when you do 2x squared minus x plus 1, and then you set that equals to 0. If you don't, either use quadratic function. I don't think that can be factored. Then you use a quadratic formula. This time, if you just consider this, then a is equals to 2, b is equals to negative 1, and c is equals to 1. So the lesson that we learn from this video is when you do completing the square, do not decide the b, what b is, until you do all the factors. So you make sure that the leading coefficient is 1, you do all the factors like that, and then you decide what b equals to. And then the quadratic formula is x equals to negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. I am sure that you will get no solution. No solutions means there is no x-intercept. No x-intercept. This is because the parabola is above the x-axis. It never crosses the x-axis. Of course, you won't get an x-intercept. So this one, I will just graph like that. So right here, and then since there is no x-intercept, I will just let it go up like this. Okay, so that is the end of this video. I'm glad that I fixed the mistake. I don't have to record this video all over again. If you like the way I explain completing the square, standard form, parabola, axis of symmetry, give me a thumbs up, a subscribe, and I will meet you all in the next lesson for more exercise. Signing out.